Welcome to the stream. Holy cow. I'm pumped up today. I don't know, something about the music got me pumped. Woo! I'm jacked. I'm pumped. For the guys in the comments who said I'm looking swole. I'm not particularly doing anything different than I just have a particularly nicely fitting shirt. Something about this shirt makes me, I don't know if it's the arms, if it's the neck, it's the shoulders, the cut, makes me look swole. Yeah. Right? I don't know. Oh. Let's do it. Let's get some streaming. Let's get some questions. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna answer your questions. We're gonna dive right in. We're not gonna do the thing where I talk about some non-FPV related thing in my life. For example, I finished watching Pluribus, and Blunty and I were talking about it, but we don't need to talk about it. Y'all don't care about that. And I know that that's true because when Blunty posts to the Livestream Clips channel, JB and Blunty talk about TV or whatever, it gets like 100 views. It gets no views. So I know you don't care. So that's fine. Whatever. Bearwolf fish. Which martial art does Bardwell do? He looks like a Taekwondo guy. First of all, no. Anybody who watches my stream, thank you for the you're wrong though. If you've watched my stream for a while, you know that from about 2000, what year did I move to Knoxville? I moved to Knoxville in late 09. So let's say from 2004 to 2009, I did jiu-jitsu. I did Japanese, not Brazilian jiu-jitsu either, Japanese jiu-jitsu. And I actually got up to a black belt. I had just gotten my black belt for about 6 months when we moved to Knoxville. And I loved my school. I loved my teacher. I just, the whole thing was so great that when I got to Knoxville, I searched around. I tried some of the local jiu-jitsu schools, and they were fine, but they just weren't, the same. And I just could not get into it in the way that I had been, and I got out of it. So, the thing about Taekwondo, cool. I'm not gonna fight a guy who does Taekwondo because he'll kick me in the face, probably. And Taekwondo guys can kick and punch, but one of the things that they always focused on in my school was application, right? And I know the argument goes that if you really care about application, you take BJJ or you just do mixed martial arts style fighting, because MMA is guys who actually try to hit each other, right? And BJJ is very focused on application, like the origins of BJJ. The Gracies would just, anybody could come in off the street and wrestle a Gracie, and they just were like, test us. Whereas a lot of martial arts schools, it's they're very just in the dojo, and they're focused on form, and I would never anybody who is just getting out and doing anything with their body, athletics, whatever, more power to you, right? But ultimately, I took a lot of pride in the idea, because of course I got into one fight in my life. Ooh, maybe I'll tell people that story. I got into one fight in my life, and so I basically never had the chance to actually apply anything, but I did like the idea that we were very focused on it. And something about Taekwondo, Taekwondo to me, it's not as bad as Aikido, which Aikido is a very in the dojo, head up its own ass martial art. No offense. No, you know what? Offense to the people who do Aikido. Kudos to you for doing stuff with your body and doing athletics, and that's got value. But as far as self-defense, Aikido can suck a D. Anyway, Taekwondo is better than that, but ultimately Taekwondo also strikes me as more focused on points-based sparring than on practical application. It's very I am squared up to you. I will fight you. You will be here. I will be here. We will kick each other in the face until one of us falls down. And so. So Taekwondo wouldn't be my choice. Of course, jiu-jitsu, it's like, you want to fight? Hold on, I'm going to lay down on the ground. Come get me! So, like, there, you could make those accusations about many different martial arts. Yeah, I am hating on Aikido. That's right. I will hate on Aikido. If you take Aikido and you get value from it, I respect that. But as a practical martial art, Aikido is terrible. It is terrible. It's terrible. And so many people who do Aikido are like, no, you don't understand. We use their energy against them. I'm like, where is one person who does Aikido who excels in, like, the MMA? None. No one. No one. Okay. Anyway. Yeah, here's the thing. The best martial art in terms of practical application, you're not going to guess it. You're not going to guess it. The best martial art in terms of practical application, number one, boxing. Because boxers actually try to hit each other and hit each other. I don't care how good like Mike Tyson said, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. I don't care how good your training is. If you have never been punched in the face before, the first time you get punched in the face, you're fucked. It's all going out the window. So boxing. And then number two, high school wrestling. And number three, maybe number two, is Olympic judo. Because the thing that all three of those have in common is they actually compete against other people who are actually trying to beat them, whereas every other martial art, the vast majority of people who practice it, they go in a dojo, they do forms, they break boards, they kick pads, and they quote-unquote spar against someone else who isn't really trying to hit them. I know there are exceptions out there, and of course, but that's the general rule. Yep. And if you like kicking pads and breaking boards and doing forms, mad respect. You are probably in better shape than I am. You would probably beat me in a fight. But if what you're interested in is actually being able to defend yourself, to use those skills against someone else, then you need to go somewhere where they're going to kick you in the face if you don't do your shit right. Thai kickboxing, it's up there. Anyway. Well, I guess we did talk about something that wasn't FPV. It's Blunty says, JB, we're not going to start with non-FPV things. Also, JB, fuck you if you think Aikido is good. Blunty, I definitely think you should put this on the live stream clips, and the subject line should be, JB says Aikido sucks, or something like that. JB says Aikido sucks, the best martial art is ... Okay, let's get in with it. That was fun. Let's see here. What's a good question to start us off with? Is there any... Here we go. Jamal Cash Money 18 wants to know if there is better range from the Beta FPV P1 system or the Caddx Ascent system than analog. So here's what we're talking about. First, let me get some screens up on screen here, so you guys, in case you don't know what I'm talking about. This is the Walksnail Ascent video system, and this is the Beta FPV P1 video system. The key thing that these two have in common is that they're based on a particular chipset from Artosyn, A-R-T-O-S-Y-N, if you're trying to spell it. Artisan makes system on a chip. They make chips that do FPV video encoding and transmission. And basically, it's like you want to do that. You need these core tasks. You need the ability to encode video. You need the ability to transmit it over the air. And Artisan makes a chip that does all that for you very quickly and efficiently. And these systems are not identical, even though they're based on the same chip. In the same way that you can have different operating systems based on the same silicon, right? But they share this common tool set And the advantage is that they can be very inexpensive and they can perform very well. If you look at OpenIPC, and this is not going to turn into JB Dogs on OpenIPC, but if you look at OpenIPC, they're trying to do this same thing with off-the-shelf hardware, and that's one of the, in my opinion, big reasons they struggle, because there's only so much you can do without specialized hardware that can do these things very quickly and efficiently and cheaply. Okay? Now, these two systems are not cross-compatible, but they are based on the same hardware, and they have similar performance, not identical, because, again, Betaflight tweaked the firmware one way, Caddx tweaked the firmware the other way, but they're similar. They're higher latency than DJI Walksnail, the original Walksnail system. Their latency in the, 35 to 40 millisecond or maybe higher 50 millisecond range. It could get better. We don't know. But the range, at least of the P1 system, is very good. I tested this little video transmitter. It's like 400 milliwatts, 200 milliwatts. Which is it? Weight, mounting size, mounting diameter, frequency, 200 milliwatts. 200 milliwatts. And I got surprisingly good range from 200 milliwatts. So I was really impressed with it. The latency wasn't great, but I thought it was okay. And especially when you consider that the air unit is less than $40 for the air unit and the camera. Shut the F door. Shut the front door. That's amazing. Okay. So the question being asked is, are these better than analog in terms of range? And here's the problem. Is the range of the P1 air unit better than a 200 milliwatt analog video transmitter? Maybe. Probably. The image quality is certainly better. The latency is certainly worse. He says he doesn't care about latency, by the way, because he flies airplanes, fixed-wing airplanes. That's valid. But the problem is that I can get a 3-watt analog video transmitter, and it's going to blow this out of the water, simply by nature of the higher output power. Now, there are higher-powered video transmitters coming. You can't get them yet, as far as I know. Like, currently, that's it. But there's I guarantee you there's a 1-watt video transmitter coming. Where is it? Even then, though, analog will win. Because I get a 3-watt analog video transmitter. Heck, I can get a 5-watt. I get a 10-watt. It's going to be freaking massive. The thing with analog is somewhere out there, someone's always willing to give me more output power. Whereas with these digital video systems, you have to wait for them to give you more output power. And sometimes they won't do it for various reasons. Regulatory reasons, technical reasons, whatever. So for long range, analog will always win, if only because you can add output power arbitrarily. However, how long is long range? The real question would be, how much range can you get off of a 1-watt P1 video transmitter? Well, we don't know because it's not released to the public yet, at least not as far as I know. So for you, long range means 10 kilometers, and you can get 15 kilometers off that video transmitter, then that's fine. But it'll never be more than analog. And frankly, I think in general, like if you look at the DJI Air unit, it's a little bit better than analog watt for watt, but it's not like radically better. I reckon that a 3-watt analog VTX will beat the DJI O4 in open air. Again, but not in terms of image quality, but just in terms of like, do I have a usable image or do I have static? Just by nature of the fact that it has more output power. So that's my take on that. All right.
You see, it looks like HDLRC released theirs too, but I don't know if
yes,
it's based on Artisan.
Well, actually, I'm glad you brought that up. So this is the HDLRC version of this ecosystem. And here's the beautiful thing. Beta FPV has announced that their next firmware version will be cross-compatible between HDLRC's hardware and Beta FPV's hardware. And this is huge. As long as these companies are releasing their own walled garden ecosystem. I bought the Caddx. I can only buy hardware from Caddx. I bought the Beta FPV P1. I can only buy hardware from Beta FPV. As long as they're doing that, like, one of them may win in terms of people, maybe it'll like work a little bit better and people will gravitate to it. but it will never achieve this kind of critical mass that you get when you have an open, well, is it open? I don't know if it's open exactly, but when you have the ability to mix and match, okay? One of the things that makes Express ELRS so powerful is that if I can't get a Radio Master receiver, I can just get a receiver from GetBarC or from Hobbywing, or Hobbymate, frick. Who am I thinking of? Blenty, help me. Hobby King, Hobby Origin. Shoot, who am I thinking of? Damn it. The very first EP receivers. Oh God. This one. Anyway, I'm blanking on the name. What's wrong with me?
Happy Model?
Happy Model. Thank you. That's right. Happy Model. Thank you.
I was like, yeah.
No, that's it. Happy Model. I don't know. What can I tell you? So, when I heard that Beta FPV's firmware was going to be cross-compatible with HGLRC, I was like, yes. First of all, because I think Beta FPV's P1 firmware is better than Cadix's or Walksnail's, whoever. I thought it was better. Now, obviously, I'm glad that if everybody just was like, fine, we'll just do the same thing, well, then where's their innovation? So I think it's good that Cadix is out there doing their own thing and driving innovation. But like, I really love the fact that the idea that this could be cross-compatible, but no one's doing it, has shifted to someone's doing it. And the really amazing thing, God, I would love this, would be if the same hardware could be flashed either to Beta FPV or to Cadix's firmware, which there is no technical reason why you couldn't do that, as far as I know. As far as I know, this is all cross-compatible. All it requires is for Cadix to say, we're going to let you do it and make it possible to flash Beta FPV's firmware. That would be beautiful, because now everybody can flash whatever firmware they want, and it's all cross-compatible and it all works. That hasn't happened. But currently, if you buy into Beta FPV's P1 system, look at this. HGLRC Draco, 1 watt. If you have the Beta FPV P1 goggles, this can work with that. Amazing. HGLRC, Beta FPV, massive thumbs up to you guys. This is the way the world needs to go. This is what we've been waiting for from a digital system since 2018. 2017, whenever it was that DJI released the very first air unit. I remember 2019, but that may have been the Vista or the V2 goggle. I don't know, whenever it released. We've been waiting for this kind of cross-compatibility. And I also have to give credit, here I'll say something nice about OpenIPC. I don't think any of this would have been happening if OpenIPC hadn't been pushing so hard. Because Artisan just comes out of nowhere and is like, hey guys, Artisan didn't used to release their chips to like just the public. They had all these, DJI got them, they had Cadix got them, they had exclusivity. We don't know I don't know the details of the contract, but there's a reason why nobody's been doing this. And then the Artisan just was like, fine, everybody, here, take our chips, make it work. And now we're getting this cross-compatibility. And I think that the slow ascendance of OpenIPC might have had something to do with that. OpenIPC gets this. OpenIPC, make your shit work on this Artisan chipset. OpenIPCs, like, there's so much that's good about it, and then it's absolutely just crippled by the actual performance of the link. Go ahead, Blenty.
How could they do that? They don't have dev kits or access to the chips. I don't think it's possible for them to do that.
I don't know. I'm just a streamer. My job is not to give solutions. My job is to rant about possibilities and wait for other people to figure it out. Do you think it's not possible, Blenty?
I mean, how would they do it? They would have already developed for the chips if they could get them. They can't get them to
but
you know what I mean?
My premise is
you need a dev kit from Artisan. Like,
but
right?
my premise, yes, but yeah, I assume so. My premise is that a year ago, no one could get the dev kits. Now something has changed at Artisan, and we see Caddx and Beta FPV and HDLRC releasing these ArtLink compatible video systems. Maybe something has changed in Artisan's willingness to provide these dev kits to the public. And maybe the and I realize it's a completely different framework than what you've been working on. But here's the thing. If the system is developed in a modular way, which I assume it has been, then there's going to be the top layer, which is all the like video encoding and stuff. And then there's going to be the underlying physical and data link layers. And maybe you could like translate that stuff over. And then again, sometimes it's just requires a full rewrite to translate code from one platform to another. Maybe it just couldn't be done. But if Artisan is willing to give you an excellent video encoder, an excellent RF physical layer and data link layer, why not take all the good things that OpenIPC has done and then just like slap that on the, I don't know. Anyway, no. That's not necessary. All we need is a Wi-Fi adapter and a Raspberry Pi, and we'll be fine. Okay, keep it up. Anyway. I got a super chat here, 30 Polish zlotys. Hi, I got 4 Caddx Vista units and a DJI Goggle V1. When it comes to DJI digital FPV, is there sense to move to O4 Pro for cinematic and still use GoPro to record? Okay, so if you go to the O4, you will need new goggles. The V1 goggles are definitely not compatible with the O4. So I assume you know that, but just in case you don't. If you do go to the O4 Pro, many people who use the O4 Pro don't use a GoPro. They find that the image quality of the O4 Pro is workable. The image quality of the O4 Pro, in my opinion, is not as good at its best as a GoPro. When you put a GoPro into the flat color profile, you get an image. It's not true like 10-bit log, but I don't know. Does GoPro support 10-bit log now? Maybe they started. I haven't bought a GoPro in a little while. But the overall, the image quality of a GoPro can be better. GoPro has better dynamic range and generally a more a flexible image for grading than what comes out of the DJI O4. That being said, many people find that the results from the O4 are more than acceptable for professional use. It just depends on how demanding you are and how able you are to control the exposure and control the lighting. Okay? So, I think if I were to go your direction, I would buy the O4 Pro. I would not immediately buy a GoPro. I would try to get the best results I could out of the O4 Pro and see what I got. Yaros points out, the O4 Pro has really good quality, but the problem for me is you can't get 4K 100 FPS at 4.3. So you got to choose between 4.3 with bad latency at 60 FPS. That's correct. And for what it's worth, like I tried to fly a DJI, I think it was an O3, at 60 FPS, 4K 60 inside a house. I was doing some kind of like a real estate fly through, and I was like, oh, let's clearly I want 4K 60. And I found the latency at 60 FPS to be made it difficult to fly in the house. And I had to go down to like, 2.7K 100. So, yeah, there is a real advantage with an O4. There's a real advantage with a GoPro of being able to set the GoPro to, let's say, 4K 24 frames per second. If like a lot of professionals shoot at 24 frames per second because that's the film frame rate. So maybe your deliverable to the client is 24 FPS because that's just what they're working with in their timeline. I don't know why. They're working with film cameras. Your GoPro can be shooting at 4K, 4.3, 24 FPS. And your O4 Pro can be at 1080p 100, making it easier for you to fly. That is a real advantage. You can tweak the exposure of the GoPro in a way that, and then have your O4 set, like maybe you've got the ISO on the O4 like cranked to the max, so you get this really grainy image, but you have great low light sensitivity, but you would never want to deliver that to the customer. So that is the major advantage of a GoPro for professional use, is you don't have to tweak the your pilot image to match what you're going to deliver to the customer. So, yeah. Let's see here. Michael Hill wants to know, back in 2015, there was a trend where people were using servo-actuated cameras on their FPV quads. Why is that not a thing anymore? Well, I don't think that was really ever a great idea, because FPV drones tend to crash and servo-actuated gimbals tend to break. So if you're going to put a gimbal on a drone, then to me that implies it is shifting from an FPV drone that's going to crash to a camera drone that is intended not to crash. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but a lot of FPV pilots, especially hobbyists, were more interested in doing awesome acrobatics than they were in doing like slow stuff, cinematic stuff. Now the trend has shifted a little bit, and we have more people doing cinematic stuff, although still plenty of people doing freestyle stuff. And those cinematic people are more likely to put a gimbal on their drone. If you're interested in exploring that, I highly recommend Medlin drone. Josh Medlin is the guy who invented this, and it is, in my opinion, the best gimbal for use on an FPV drone. Now, it's only a one-axis gimbal, so you only get up-down. But in terms of durability, it is the best gimbal. It's the most durable gimbal and the most reasonable for times when the quad is likely to crash and you still want the gimbal to work at the end of the day. One of the biggest developments he's done, let's see if I can find this, is he has a timing belt on his gimbal. It's not really a timing belt exactly, but it's a belt-based gimbal. And so you can see here that unlike a gimbal with a push rod, where you crash, you bend the push rod, and now it's fucked. With this one, it's got a belt, and so if you crash, the belt just slips, and then you come in and you land, and you just crank it back where it needs to be, and you're good to go. That's a very, very clever innovation. His original gimbals did have a push rod, and he fixed it. So the other cool thing about this is, I don't know if we're going to be able to show this. Yeah, you can see it here. You can see that he's got the GoPro mounted on the FPV camera. So as the camera moves up and down, your field of view stays the same. Well, your field of view isn't exactly the same, but your aim point stays the same as your GoPro, so you can know where the GoPro is aimed, as opposed to other settings that only tilt the FPV camera, for example. And in order to do that, he's got this massive digital servo, because it's got to turn the weight of the GoPro, and it can't have any like jitter that screws up your footage. So this is like just a really, really well thought out system. Highly recommend if you're interested in going this direction. Does he have any test footage? I built one of these. I have a tutorial. Joshua Bardwell Medlin drone. I did a tutorial about how to do this. Here's the video if you're interested. He put a camera gimbal on a drone. The result is amazing. Medlin drone. Do we have flight examples? Yeah, here we go. So here's how this thing... No, let me see. Yeah, here we go. This is Medlin flying. This is not me. So I don't know if you can tell. It depends on how experienced you are as an FPV pilot. But what you'll see is that as the drone slows down, as the rider slows down, normally the drone would overshoot the rider or have to like swirl around because the up tilt would be fixed. But what he's able to slow and speed the drone seamlessly, because he's adjusting the gimbal up and down, and you don't even know it's happening. Do you see how the drone slows down and speeds up with the rider while keeping the rider in frame or there? Like it is, and by the way, don't expect to be able to do this your first time out of the gate. It's so disorienting if you're used to flying a drone with a constant pitch angle. Like this is a master at work, but even just a single axis gimbal really opens up your ability to control the speed of the drone without changing the pitch angle of the camera. It's really fantastic for chasing and for other types of shots. Right? So, very cool. Very cool stuff. See, this is the older version. This is with the push rod. This is not the version with the timing belt. I'm not sure why. This must have been before the timing belt. You can see me trying to fly it. Got some shakiness too. I don't know what that's up with that. Anyway. So I don't think that trend died so much. I just think that it shifted into the cinematic world. If you're going to do something like a 2-axis or a 3-axis gimbal, in my opinion, you need a drone that has position hold. So you can just like fly the drone and know that it's moving straight. You're not manually flying it. Or you need a two operator setup. That's the word I was looking for. Where one guy is controlling the gimbal and one guy's flying the drone via a separate camera. Drew Sef85, thank you for a $5 super chat. Has anybody made an encrypted FPV system? Can we encrypt the signal? What's a good spot? Well, that's 2 questions, Drew Sef. Sneaky. Encrypted FPV systems do exist. Some would argue that the DJI and the walk snail systems are encrypted, sort of, in that it's non-trivial to view the video feed if you're not the intended receiver. And nevertheless, it is possible to do. There are actually encrypted systems. They're used by the military. And all those systems are digital because you can't really encrypt an analog system. Although there are custom analog systems that change the analog signal in such a way that you can't tune into it if you don't have their special chip. So these things do exist, but for the most part, no one cares. Because for the most part, the only ones who care are like the military, the law enforcement, and so forth. And so like that stuff is all focused on the military market, and it's priced out for the hobbyist. I mean, like, yes, absolutely. There is like somewhere there is a military guy with an MPU-5 radio, and they're doing video over the MPU-5, and that's all encrypted. Like, the whole thing is encrypted. No one can touch it. Okay? And that's, like, I don't know, how much is an MPU-5 radio? How much is a single MPU-5 radio? Oh, I can buy one on eBay. I sincerely doubt that. No. Those are not real MPU-5s. No. A real MPU-5 radio. How much is an MPU-5? It's got to be $15,000. $9K. Okay. $9K. Is it possible for civilians to buy MPU-5s? Is that 15 grand, says this guy. I just bought 2. Okay. So, yeah. So, yes. Yes, encrypted video systems do exist. For the most part, hobbyists don't need them and don't care about them. And so for the most part, they are priced and tailored toward the government market. And so they're priced out. You can make your own MPU-5 for under $300. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. I think you could make something like an MPU-5, like a mesh-based radio. I don't know why an MPU-5 costs $15,000, but I'll bet you there's a reason that it doesn't cost $300. That's not they're ripping you off. Anyway. Let's see here. Woodlander96, thank you for being a patron, Woodlander. I see from the icon next to your name, you're in the Discord server. I really appreciate you signing up for my Patreon, joining the Discord server, and just making, well, I was going to say making the world a better place. Making my world better because you subscribe to my Patreon, and making my Discord server better. Best places to hang out on the internet and talk about FPV. So I'm told by the people who are in it. Silvis radios are okay. Silvis is good. Yes. I've heard good things about Silvis. I've heard great things about MPU5, but like they price everybody out and they're kind of high-end shit. The latency is bad. The latency on MPU5 is bad because it's a mesh-based system. So my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, chat, my understanding is that the thing that makes the MPU5 so cool is that they are mesh-based. So every single radio can act as a repeater for every single other radio, basically. And that means, like, if you have a car here and a dude here and another dude there, the packets can, like, hop back from the dude to the car, up to the drone in the sky, over to the airplane, over to the, and so, like, obviously you can understand why the military would want that. But the so people are like, why don't we put drones on the MPU5 network? And the answer is because the latency is absolutely awful. Well, maybe it's only 150 milliseconds. I don't know. But that's no good for FPV. So. Anyway, going back to this question, I'll click it again, Blunty, so you get the timestamp correct. Woodlander96 says, I'm looking at pre-ordering the HC0 goggles too for mid to long-range mountain cruising on analog. Flying mostly around 2 kilometer line of sight. Is a standalone receiver sufficient? Absolutely, 100%, no question. I would get the HC0 goggles too. I would get the Echo antenna set from HD0. The only reason I recommend the Echo antenna set, I do not have one. Haha. I don't have one on my goggles because they didn't exist when I bought my goggles. The Echo antenna set just is very compact and just sort of fits the goggles really well. Right? Now, frankly, you actually only need this one antenna if you're only doing analog. Okay? I would put this antenna on the goggle, and I would run it to this SMA connector. All this other stuff is only used for HD0. That being said, I like my goggles to look symmetrical. And I like the possibility, like, I was out one day, everybody was flying analog, and then somebody pulled out an HD0 quad. And I tuned in and spectated. And I was glad I had antennas on my HD0 goggles. Like, why not? But technically, you only need one antenna if you're going to be doing analog. And you might think, well, I'm doing long range stuff. Is that a high gain antenna? Don't I need a bigger antenna? Nope. Especially not for 2 kilometers. Honestly, man, 2 kilometers is barely long range. So this will 100% be fine. If you care, you could put a slightly higher gain antenna on there, like a TrueRC X2 Air, which I think is around 10 dB. But that's going to be fine. And I absolutely recommend it. The receiver is more than sufficient. The only thing you're losing is diversity. But here's the thing. When you fly long range, a lot of the time, you don't use diversity. A lot of the time when you fly long range, you have a directional antenna. It's got like a 30-degree beam width. It points out that way, and that's where you're going. Now, you say, well, but if I had diversity, I could have 2 antennas, and I could like stagger the pie slices and get twice as wide of a beam. That is true. If you absolutely need that, then you need an external receiver. But here's the thing. I have my 30-degree beam width. I'm flying my drone. I start flying my drone that way. Signal gets weak. I turn my head. Oh, signal gets strong again. Oh, what would we do without diversity? I don't know. I might have to turn my head slightly. So I'm all in on the HD0 goggles for analog. All in. You'll be fine.
You didn't answer the second half of the last question.
Which one? The guy who tried to
The
sneak
super
two
chat.
questions in?
Yep.
It's true. Okay, I'll go back and answer that, but I do want to acknowledge he snuck two questions in. There's a part of me that's like, hey, wait a minute. That's not fair. Okay, I'll go back and answer it. Do I keep the antennas on when I put the goggles away? Yes, absolutely. That's the other reason I really like... That's the other reason I really like the Echo antenna set. Yep, that's exactly how I do it. Does diversity have multipath rejection? Asks Marco. So if you have, so with a single receiver, you don't have fusion, the fusion algorithm. That's not true. That's absolutely not true, Gangrene. Absolutely not true. Gangrene, sorry, go back. Gangrene says it doesn't work on the Echoes. 100% not true. I have done it. I have done it. I absolutely have done it. Multiple times with the HD0 V2 goggles and the Echoes. 100% it does work. I don't have one here to show you, to prove it to you. I'm sorry. I don't have them. But I can tell you I've done it multiple times. On 5 different sets of goggles, let's say. Because I was working with somebody, they ordered 5 different sets of goggles in the Echoes, and I helped them prepare the goggles, and I set them up for them. So I can just tell you it works. I don't know why. I don't know what your issue is, but it absolutely works. So, going back to Marco's comment about multipath. So when you have a single receiver, you do not have fusion. And one of the things about fusion is that if you have multipath, it can, like, one of the antennas gets a clean signal, one of the antennas gets multipath nulling, and it fuses the signal together, so you get less disruption. In my experience, though, the fusion algorithm, like, sometimes it works good, sometimes it works bad. And I'm not talking just about, like, Sky Zones, which their original fusion receiver had a bug and was shitty. In my review of the HD0 goggles too, when the signal got weak, my TBS fusion module went to black screen because the fusion algorithm was having trouble, and my HD0 goggles stayed clear. So you're basically trading one kind of distortion for another. With the HD0 goggles, you are not going to get the potential upside of having 2 antennas, and one of them gets a multipath null, and one of them gets a not a null, and then it fuses those together. You're not going to get that. So if you get multipathing, you're going to get multipathing, and there's nothing you can do. But I think overall, it's a net positive for me. Now, if HD0, and I've heard that Carl might be working on a fusion receiver. If HD0 was to release a fusion receiver and build it into the HD0 goggles, I would give it a fair shake. But frankly, like, I think that fusion, like Rapid Fire and TBS Fusion, I think those receivers are better than pure diversity, but, like, they also come with their own set of problems and quirks, and so, like, it's like we've almost taken, like, a sideways step, not really a step forward. It is a step forward, but it's not, it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back kind of a thing. And something about the simplicity of the HD0 goggle, just give me one good analog receiver, no diversity, no fusion, no bullshit. Just make it good and give me the signal. Something about that just really works for me. So. Okay, going back to the question. Fine. What is a good spot welder for lithium-ion batteries? This is the best spot welder you can buy for the money. Now, there are cheaper ones. And they'll work. But this is the best value in terms of You'll spend more money, but you'll spend 2 times as much money, but you'll get 5 times as much capability. It's the best value, and I think it's just the best spot welder until you get up to like industrial grade shit, which is like just on a whole nother level. I made a video about it if you want to watch it. I did it right this time, building a 21700 battery pack. I am using this spot welder. It's called K-Weld. It's $250. It is smart. First of all, it's powerful and capable. It can weld really thick metal strips. It's super powerful. But also it's smart in that it like is measuring the amps going through, and it will tell you. It'll adjust the length of the pulse until the right amount of power goes through. It will tell you if you got a bad weld. It can tell if like, no, that wasn't a good weld. Like, it's just like, it does these things that high-end spot welders do that cheap hobby ones often don't. And for $250, it's just absolutely fantastic. But here's the problem. That's without a power supply. That doesn't come with a power supply. So you have to find a power supply for it. And the problem is, and I struggle with this, if you just grab a 6S LiPo off the shelf, it's like, this thing at peak will pull 1,000 amps. Now, it'll pull 1,000 amps for like a millisecond, okay? Not very long, but like it wants to pull like 1,000 amps or 1,300 amps. And what I've found and what I've researched, if you just grab like a 6S LiPo, like it kind of will, like I did this video using a 6S LiPo. It's like 6S 3000 or something. And after I made this, it worked. I built this battery pack. And then when I went back a week later to build a second battery pack, I could not get a good weld off that same LiPo. The machine just kept saying, nope, bad weld, bad weld, bad weld. And my theory is that I damaged the LiPo internally. Like it gave its all, and then it was dead. Like the LiPo doesn't seem to be dead, but I can't get a good weld off of it, whereas I was. So when you look up what's a good battery to use with this, like they recommend this big lead acid car battery. This like, because it can provide a lot of amps. And it's like this battery alone is like $150 something. I'm like, oh, that sucks. And then I have this big lead acid battery just sitting around. Damn. So then you could buy this, the K-Cap Ultra Capacitor module and the K-Supply kit. And what this does is it lets you use a rack mount server power supply with this ultra capacitor module. So now you're up another $200 and another $135 and whatever you spend on the power supply. So like either you're going to spend say $200 or less on a car battery. Maybe you got a car battery laying around. If so, more power to you. Or you're going to spend like $500, $400 on the power supply to run it off the wall. So that $250 for the spot welder is a little bit misleading unless you already have a way to power it. But when you look at how much like really good spot welders actually cost, it's like pretty competitively priced. Yeah, the capacitor bank alone, right. McShaky says use the capacitor bank they sell. The capacitor bank alone doesn't work. You need a power supply to charge the capacitor bank. You can't just plug this into the wall. So the $200 capacitor bank, yup. And then you need this. Well, technically you don't need this, but like you need something. And then you need a 12-volt power supply. Right, so how much is this today? You used to be able to get these power supplies for like $20. Nowadays, let's look. How expensive? Sold out. Damn. 86 euros. Yeah, so. $185. Jesus.
So,
Yeah.
I have to ask. So, like, this is not tenable for most people trying to build a battery pack, right? Like, the prices are insane. Like, you're not going to
Well,
spend $400 to build some Lions, right? Like, if
I
you're a
mean, it
normal dude.
depends. It depends on how. Like, there are people who are really into building Lions.
Okay, right.
There
There
are. I
are
mean,
people
they're
as
out there.
different than the average person in chat, right? Like, so,
Well,
for
yes.
instance,
What's
Skydozer
the
linked one that's
best?
$50. Skydozer linked one on Amazon that's $50 that he said he's done multiple packs with. So I'm just wondering, like, why would someone choose to spend 5 times the price or 10 times the price with a power supply on something else? It's like I'm
So
trying to.
let's look at the one Skydozer linked. Like,
So I
let's at
linked it
least.
in Discord.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I don't have this exact one. I have a similar one at a similar price range. Hang on. Let me look. Let's see if I can pull mine up as well. Like mine is similar to this. Not it's basically this one. Yeah, so like in my experience, I have to use thinner nickel strips in order to get a good weld. If you use the thicker nickel strips or if you sandwich the strips, it doesn't have the power to go through. That's the short answer. And the other thing is I have to cut the slit in the nickel strip, which increases the resistance and increases the strength of the weld. If I don't cut the slit, I don't get good welds. Now, granted, I'm not using the one that Skydozer linked. Maybe his is better than this one. I don't know. But like in my experience, the ones in the $50 price range, you really have to like pay attention and work to get good welds. And with the $250 one, it doesn't matter. You can use nice thick nickel strip, right, for low resistance, high C rating. And you can, if you're getting weak welds, you just turn the knob up, and eventually you'll just blow through that freaking copper or whatever, nickel, and you like, okay, so like you just have so much headroom on that thing. The other thing is that again, when you do the weld with it, it will be like, yep, that was a good weld, and obviously you're still gonna do the pull test, but like if you do the weld and it's like, nope, then you know for a fact you did not get enough heat into that weld and you have to fix it. And I feel like that kind of feedback is very valuable in like, again, you could just do the weld, do the pull test, do the weld, do the pull test, but getting the feedback directly from the welder I think is very valuable. But for sure, I mean, if like when I just was just like, I'm going to make a battery pack, I bought this $50 welder because I was like, there's no freaking way I'm spending $300. And then later I was like, well, I kind of want to do it right. And I spent the $300. And now I'm like, oh, shit, I have to spend more money to get a battery or a power supply. So I'm kind of annoyed. And I'm telling you about my experience. But my experience is also that this $50 welder, it was just barely adequate if you made all the concessions in the world. And even then, it just got across the line. And if I'm building lithium ion battery packs, maybe like if I'm just building a 2 amp pack to power my goggles, sure, I don't care. But like I had a pack where I dropped the pack on the ground and one of the welds busted loose. And I was like, oh, that could have been bad. Like if that had busted loose, like the only thing that happened was the battery stopped working. I was like, what the fuck's up with my battery? And I looked and there was a busted weld because it wasn't a strong weld. So like I would argue that if you're building lithium-ion battery packs, then you might want to spend a little bit more money to get a better weld. So I don't know.
Yeah, it changes. It completely changes the economics. So if you're saying don't buy this, only buy the expensive one, or don't build your own batteries, like that's different than saying
no. That's not what I'm saying.
Deal with it. Okay.
No. But he did say what's the best spot welder, didn't he?
I understand.
Oh, he said what's a good. He said what's a good. He said what's a good.
We have everybody else in chat who doesn't have any context because they don't like to read questions that you know what I mean? It's like, so everybody else in chat is going, why are we looking at it? All this kind of stuff. So.
Well, I mean, I just think I don't know. Like,
Like there's a
I
bunch
mean,
of people
okay,
in chat going, I have a $50 welder and I have no issues. I'm making plenty of batteries, like all this kind of stuff. So it's like, yeah.
I got maybe it's just me. I did not get good results off of this $50 spot welder. Like I could just, like, I had to cut the strip and I had to be like, oh, that one wasn't very good. And I cranked it to max and I made sure I got like I don't remember the number, but it was like the 0.10 copper instead of the 0.15 that you really want to be using. And like, it's just like, felt like I was constantly on the edge of it not working right. And I just did not like that feeling of, I'm freaking working with lithium ion batteries and I'm just not sure I'm doing a good job. And so I was like, I'm going to blow. And I did. I spent $250 out of my own money. Now, granted, I made a video about it, so now it's a business expense and whatever. I can justify that. Not everybody can. I get that. You absolutely can. So, like, I can tell you, this one kind of sort of worked. We're getting reports from Skydozer in the Discord that this one worked good. So I guess okay, like use that one. But if you want to spend more money and get like a really good one, the K-Weld is definitely the way to go.
Okay, and then we have a couple other people in chat who may be new, but they're asking, why can't I just solder them? So
the reason that you don't want to just solder them is that the heat from the soldering iron damages the cells. Especially some batteries, they have like a weld point at the center of the negative terminal, I think it is. Maybe it's the positive terminal. I'm not sure. I think it's the negative terminal. And if you solder on top of it, it damages the battery internally. The advantage of spot... Now, you can do it, right? And you can get away with it, especially if you're not making a high C pack. But the soldering iron puts so much more heat into the battery and it damages them. Whereas the spot welder puts a minimal amount of heat in the battery and the heat is very, very focused just on the interface between the metals and doesn't go down into the battery. I would also like to point out that people say, well, I soldered a battery and it worked fine. I talked to Matthew Barnard from Upgrade Energy. Upgrade Energy makes lithium ion, well, 18650 and 21700 battery packs. So like they're a manufacturer of battery packs. They don't manufacture cells, but they manufacture packs, and they put a ton of work into quality testing and quality assurance. And what he said was they found that when they direct soldered the cylindrical cells, the damage didn't show up, and they found that they performance tested all the cells looked fine. They shipped the packs. And then like 2 months later, they had a ridiculously high failure rate. So his point was, and again, this is just a sample size. Well, it's not a sample size of one because it's a manufacturer, but it is just one person saying this. His argument was that just because you solder a pack and it looks good on the day you solder it, it may have an increased failure rate further down the line, as opposed to showing immediate degradation. So I thought that was worth passing on. Anyway, you can solder them if that's all you've got. But the reason people spot weld is to keep from damage. And also, some types of cells are very susceptible to damage from soldering, and others are not. And I don't know the difference between them. But that was, you might think, well, why was Upgrade Energy even considering hand soldering? There was a reason they were doing it. They had done it in the past with other cells, and then they did it with this new cell, and it destroyed the packs. So, all right. Anything else, Blenty, on this topic? I think it's an interesting topic.
No, I think this is the most divisive topic we've had in a while in chat, and I'm very surprised by it.
What else is divisive? The $250 versus $50 price point?
Well, like another guy, like a couple other people are like, yours is way too expensive for a good spot welder. You can get cheaper ones on AliExpress that are great.
Show me.
And then there's like,
I love it.
AWITHZ UF20B.
Shut up. Okay, so here is $120. So that's about Well, it has a power supply. Let's see. This one is rated for 10.5 kilowatts. I don't know what that means. 1750 amp. That's good. Yeah, the K-Weld says you want around 1300 amps. Let me just double check that. I'm pretty sure I remembered that correctly. Yeah, the current report is approximately 1000 amps. Min recommended welding current is 1200 amps. Max is 2000 amps. Okay, so I think K-Weld says that you want, yeah, well, here they say they want at least 1200 amps. And again, why are we talking about amps and not watts? It's because when you spot weld, your goal is to build heat in the metals, and heat buildup is proportional to amps, not volts. So actually, some people have said that you get better results with a lower voltage battery. Like a 2S battery is really ideal because it results in, I don't know exactly why. More amps for less watts, and it's easier on the battery or something. So this guy is rated for 1750 amps. Even if you take into account that that's AliExpress amps, you're probably still hitting at least 1000, maybe 1200. Yeah, I could see it. That seems to hit the specs. Good, big, thick leads. I think that has potential. The leads aren't too long.
There's also one called the K7, and there's also the K7 Pro, which is a giant super cap, I think.
God damn it, the pop-ups. K7 spot welder, capacitor spot welder, double pulse. So I can't figure out, is this actually got like controlled output? Because again, a really good spot welder will not just shoot a pulse down the leads and cross your fingers how much power goes through it. It will detect how many amps are going through it and will extend or reduce the length of the pulse to get the right amount of heat into the joint. I can't tell if that's going on here, if this is just like gonna, shoot power down the leads and cross your fingers. Intelligent display, delay, pre-soldering. No, it's got settings. $45. Does that come with the capacitors? How does that work? How do the capacitors charge? Dual pulse?
I think it's 18650s, it says, right? In the name of the product, I don't know.
Welding 4 18650s. That's cool. I can't figure out exactly how it gets power. And where is the display? Type-C charging port, 5 volts, 2 amps. Yeah, no, you're not going to be able to do very many. How long, it's got to take forever to recharge. No. It's got to take forever to recharge if you're doing it off USB. You actually need... So this one really needs an external power supply. That $40 price is misleading. You're missing a component. Although that same thing is true of the K-Weld, so I'm not trying to like shit on it. K7 spot welder. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so like this guy is $121 and seems like it has everything you need, and the specs do. Like maybe I should buy that one. I don't know. Like I'm kind of just like, I like the aesthetic of the K-Weld. I like the DIY, I believe that this thing can punch way above its weight. But it definitely is more expensive. Yeah. Okay. Neat. Well, you get something at every price point. Why is this one $160? What's this one have? Full set with 10 SQ. K7 Pro full set 12. 200 and... What is it? What is in the full set? All right. Anything else, Plenty, from the chat? Any other good ones?
I think we've covered all the suggestions.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, of course, they say there's no better way to get a question answered than to propose the wrong answer on the internet, and then just let people correct you. So I love it.
Oh, there is one more question, which was that, do you have a special way to source copper or nickel strips? Because a couple people were saying they were maybe kind of difficult.
No, I just buy it from 18650 Battery Superstore. I buy the strips and cut them. I really like that you can buy the pre-cut strips, and they're pre-slit. But I couldn't always find those in the lengths or shapes that I needed. So, yeah, I just bought a roll of the nickel strip from 18650 Superstore and used it.
And then you mentioned thickness earlier. Is there some kind of thickness concern? Like, do you have a recommendation for like the lowest thickness you should use, or is it sort of up to the user discretion?
So that is not up to user discretion. It has to do with the C rating of the pack, and more specifically, how many amps you intend to pull. There are calculators online that you should absolutely use. I'm not going to give you a number. I'm not even going to give you a half-ass number, because what you need to do is you say, I'm going to pull this many amps. Okay, then based on that, you need a nickel strip of this width and this thickness. It has to do with heat buildup and amps and resistance, and so you need to just use a calculator or a table to tell you the correct nickel strip. Let's see if I can find something like that. The ultimate guide to sizing nickel strips for battery packs. Okay, you need something like this, okay? And you need to run through the process. You cannot just be like, I'm just going to get this thickness. I'm sure it'll be fine. It absolutely has to do with how many amps you plan to pull. So. All right, what's this? Oh, someone's going to prove me wrong on the internet. I did not say that. I did not say that. I did not say digital FPV can never exist. That's great. It's that meme will never die. I also didn't say analog is dead. I said that when digital first came out, the days of analog were numbered. Now, that number could be a long number, but that was the first sign that eventually everything would be digital. Bardwell doesn't know as much as people think he does. That's true. That's absolutely true. That's 100% true. Yeah, no, there was a question about tabless lithium cells, and I started to reply, and I kind of didn't know where I was going. And then I said some things that were just absolutely wrong. Absolutely. And then I got called out in the chat and was like, oh, shit, you're right. And then I was like, okay. But I guess what's happening here is that they play the part where I was wrong, and then they're like, wrong! And then do they play the part where I got called out in the chat and was like, oh shit, you're right? No. Okay. Well, feel free to use my video to make your point. I still think that no matter how good the C rating of tabless cells is, there are going to be many applications where you don't want a metal cylinder and you want a pack made of pouches. But no, absolutely. I definitely, I got off on the wrong track and just said absolutely wrong things and then got called out, and as I recall, backed it off. But there you go. You do a lot of live streaming. You can't get it right all the time. Haha. I have an HD0 AIO5. ELRS only connects when I put my controller at 150 hertz. As soon as I move to 250 hertz, it disconnects. Why? Thank you for $10, Julio Callejas. Probably.
I did confirm.
What's that?
I did confirm he's not switching to a D or an F mode. He is picking 250 without a number or a letter, without a letter in front of it. And
Does
he says
the
if
AI...
he switches to 50, it also disconnects.
Does the AIO5 have an SPI receiver then, Blunty? Have we confirmed that?
Yes, correct. Yep.
So the reason has to be that the SPI receiver doesn't support the packet rate.
Right, but he's saying I don't know. He's saying he picks 250 without the D or F in front of him. He's just picking 250. He said also if he picks 50, it also disconnects.
So the SPI receiver should support that, but clearly we've dialed it into the packet rate, and it's got to have to do with the SPI receiver. At this point, like, we can confirm that it should connect at 50 and 250. It should, but it doesn't. At this point, I don't know what you would do other than either A, ask an ELRS. Captain Bry, are you here? Is Captain Bry here? Or ask HC0. Because without like diving into the firmware, Captain Bry also says it should work. I have no idea. So here's what you got. You have me and Blunty, who are, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, relatively smart in this area, telling you it should work. We got an ELRS dev, thank you, Captain Bry, telling you it should work. I don't know what you can do at this point other than go back to HD0 and ask, why doesn't it work? Ask politely. Maybe there's something you're doing that we, like, I can't, I'm trying to think, what is like the option that we're overlooking? That you've set some option and it's breaking it, and we're just not thinking to ask. But I can't think of anything that would cause 50 not to work. Like 50 should just work. Peter Klemenko wonders if you have ELRS 4.0 on your radio, but an ELRS 3.0 or 3.x on your receiver. Would it work? Juiced. It's not the baud rate because it works at 150 but not at 50. Since it works at 150, it should work at the lower packet rate. Go ahead, Blunty.
I mean, it can't bind to 4.0. That's the whole point. It can't bind.
Well, I don't know if maybe it'll like bind, but it kind of will have. I don't know. I wouldn't think
it will not bind. They have a different binding. Yeah, they will not.
Yeah. Okay. Well, never mind then. I mean, 150 hertz is still good to go. You're fine. Marco says, disable VTX admin. AIO5 has issues with VTX admin. Maybe reboot the flight controller after setting 250 hertz and wait to see. That's interesting. Maybe what's happening is it is locking at 150, and when you change to 250, it doesn't reconnect. Change it to 250 and power cycle, and then wait like 1 whole minute. How do you disable VTX admin, Marco? If I remember right, there isn't like a enable disable. You just set the channel to like dash. Hey, Captain Bry, as long as you're here, don't you love to hear that? It would be nice if in the VTX admin menu there was an enable disable setting. Right now, I think the way it works is if you set the channel to a number, VTX admin enables. And if you set the channel to like dash dash dash, it disables. But that's pretty confusing and not intuitive. So it would be nice if there was an enable disable option in the VTX admin. I've gotten situations where people don't understand why every time they power up their quad, it's not on the channel they think it should be on, because they left VTX admin enabled without realizing it. And then VTX admin is overriding their settings. And I suspect that if there was a separate enable disable setting, that might be easier for them to understand what's going on. Well, I mean, as long as I'm just like, what I would like, Captain Bry, as long as, thank you for being so receptive to the rantings of an entitled YouTuber. What I would like is a separate enable disable setting and then band channel power. As long as the enable disable setting is, it's kind of, why would my on off be set to band, right? That doesn't, why would it be set to band? Like band, A, B, E, R band, off. Like, why would it be there? Why can't I have band race, channel 8, power 25, enable disable, on off, right? That makes more sense to my brain. Yeah, and hide all the other fields if off. So I would say don't hide the other fields. Here's why. What if I want to set band and channel, and then turn it on? Well, no, I could just have my quad unplugged. Yeah. Okay, so hide it if it's, yeah. Hide it if it's off. That's fine. Never discount JB's ability to get shit done via whining. It's true, although I sometimes feel a little bit guilty about how willing Captain Bry is to listen to my ranting and then do something about it, because I'll never stop whining. But I'm used to whining and being ignored, and so I just whine with impunity. And then occasionally when people listen to my whining, I'm like, yay, I made a difference in the world. When really, it's the person who did the work who made the difference in the world, and I just whined about it. But every time I whine, Captain Bry is like, I could fix that, and I should send him a fruit basket or something as a thank you. Okay. Has JB ever requested a change via the repo? I have done that with Betaflight for sure. But I find I get results when I bother people in person or complain on a live stream. Captain Bry, I'm telling you, man, I just went into Claude and I vibe coded how to fix that VBAT problem. I don't need you, dude. I got Claude now. You're gonna see a pull request any minute now. No, I'm sorry. I can't do it. I got you, dude. You know what I can do for you, man? I can here's what I can do for you. Hang on. Where'd my O3 go? Oh, I sold my O3. Flip. Flip. I sold, you just need an air unit, don't you? I could do that. I'll send, yeah, Captain Bright, I'll send you an air unit, man. You don't even need a DJI. It could be a walk snail too, right? It's the same, isn't it? All right, we'll figure that out. Brandon Beans, that turtle mode thing was never a safety issue, but okay, fine. Whatever. I'm still annoyed that you broke my function, that someone broke something that worked for me. I'm allowed to be annoyed that someone broke something that worked for me, even if it was a quote-unquote safety fix. Anyway, I wasn't that annoyed, and I fixed it. So, problem solved. It made content. I'm happy. Thank you for $10 from Skydar FPV. I'm trying to capture propeller noise on my quad, but I normally run DJI. What's the lightest weight way to record usable audio? Would you go with a small action cam or a standalone recorder? Like a small action cam, like the Runcam Thumb or the Insta360 Go would be fine. A standalone audio recorder, I think it's debatable whether it's going to get good audio due to the wind, whereas an action cam is probably going to be tailored for use in a windy environment. So yeah, I would probably go with a small action cam. Doesn't the HD0 G2 use all 4 antennas for analog and HD0? No, it does not. The HD0 Goggle V2 uses 1 antenna for analog only. The one I indicated earlier. Thank you for 1,000 rupees from Kanish Q FPV. Thank you so much for everything you have taught me. I am really thankful to you for making super duper content and making FPV easier to learn. Thank you so much for the kind words. Crom says the DJI Mic 3 is awesome for onboard recording. It has 32-bit float. The advantage of that's actually really interesting, Crom. 32-bit float is extremely useful for FPV drone recordings because 32-bit float has basically infinite dynamic range. And you could go from the quietest to the loudest thing, and it never clips. And actually, most of the time, that's not super important as long as you set your levels correctly. But with a drone, you're going to go from very quiet to very loud. And with 32-bit float, you'll never clip. That's really interesting. That's a really good point. And it's tiny. So is the wind an issue, Crom? Does it do okay with the wind? And I assume it has onboard recording, right? "32-bit float internal recording." Holy shit. Wow. Integrated time code. Shut up. Oh my God. Oh my God. That's amazing. So I had a video I recorded once. I had 2 lavalier mics, one on me and one on Evan Turner, who I was recording the video with. And they had internal recording. But the problem was that the time was slightly out of sync. So that if I synced the audio, like 5 or 10 minutes later, we would be out of sync by just enough that it sounded like reverb. Drove me crazy. If you have 8 mics and built-in time code, God, DJI is so good. It's so good. DJI is so good. How's the audio quality? Is the audio quality good? DJI is so good. It's so embarrassing how good they are. Golly. Okay. Thank you for $5 from Jan. Thank you, Crom, for that input, by the way. Thank you for $5 from Dan GTT. What antenna would you pick to improve the signal on the Betaflight VR04 analog goggles? Thank you for $5. Dan, I like a medium gain analog. So my go-to most of the time is the TrueRC X-Air. This one. This is a pretty solid antenna, a little bit higher gain. It's not an Omni, so you're going to need to point the antenna at the drone. Not too big. Now you can go up to the X2 Air, which is a little bit higher gain even still, and a little bigger. Don't get this one. This is made for the DJI goggles. You want the regular old one, something like this. Hang on. Regular old one with just an SMA connector. There we go. That's the one. The X2 Air is the one you want. And that's going to have a little bit higher gain, 13 dB. I'm going to really just increase the range. That's the direction I would steer you. Alex Brain, thank you for £5. I just flashed the latest Betaflight version. Switching on aux4 would enable turtle mode even when it was unassigned in Betaflight. Is this a known thing? No. What probably happened is that you deleted turtle mode from aux4, but you didn't hit save. So until you hit the save button, the modes tab will still reflect the old setting, even though it doesn't look like it. I don't know. That's my guess. No, that's not a known thing, though. aux4 should not enable turtle mode when it's unassigned, obviously. I mean, I don't mean that, like, obviously. No, I'm agreeing with you. That shouldn't be happening. That is not a known thing, as far as I know.
Also, I'll just mention, if you mean latest by latest release, then absolutely I would not expect that to happen. If you mean latest as like I'm flashing the nightly, then like it's not insane that something weird would happen because somebody pushed something strange. But
although that's pretty weird.
It's still unlikely.
You're right. I'm a dumbass. He like deleted the range, but he didn't hit save. I nailed it. I say one wrong thing and so everybody makes a video. Bardwell was wrong. But does anybody give me credit for the things I say right? Actually, yes, they do. Never mind. Sorry. What's your opinion on pilot levels today versus a few years ago? Where's that question? I'm trying to click on it for you, Blunty. Why is it not there? It's not in the social stream dashboard. That's weird.
It's 31 on my queue.
You queued it?
Uh-huh.
Oh, nice. I don't know why I don't see it in the... Okay, anyway, thank you. What's your opinion on pilot's skill level today compared to a couple years ago? Much higher. Much higher. As it should be. The pilot skill level goes up. Now, I don't know about the average skill level. But I can tell you that the peak skill level is higher. And... there are, like, if you look, just think about what you see on Instagram, mostly Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, not so much YouTube anymore. Nobody's posting flight edits to YouTube very much. It's mostly shorts, which frankly is where flight edits always should have been. The number one complaint about flight edits was that they were too freaking long because you needed to fill out a 3-minute song. And so, like, you had one good trick and then 2.5 minutes of mediocre flying. And I always thought flight edits should be shorter. And then flight edits moved to TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Facebook Reels, Instagram, whatever. The short content. And it's like, that's where flight edits really belong all the time. And I can tell you that everybody posts their best shit. And then the algorithm filters for the best shit. I can tell you that the number of times when I just randomly come across a flight edit, say on Instagram, and I go, that's not that good, is like 0. Whereas 2 or 3 years ago, half the time I'd see a flight edit and I'd be like, it's okay. And nowadays it seems like every time I see a flight edit, I'm like, damn, this guy's good. Like even the kind of mediocre stuff is still way better than it was. Like, so like, 2 or 3 years ago, there was a pilot who was as good as the best pilot today. But I feel like more people today are clustered against the ceiling than there were 2 or 3 years ago. And the ceiling is higher. So. And that's kind of how it always is. Like, you think about skateboarding. I'm not a skateboarder, but like, I've heard skateboarders talk about how if you go back a certain amount of time, nobody could kickflip. If you could kickflip, you were a big deal. And nowadays, like, just everybody can kickflip. Because, and I think in FPV, like, Matty flips are an example of that. Or today, trippy spins are an example of that. way back in the day, nobody had invented a Matty flip. And then Matty invented the Matty flip. And then everybody went, oh, that's a thing you can do. And then everybody, as they were learning freestyle, they were like, I want a Matty flip. And they learned a Matty flip. So like, and nowadays, like, nobody used to know what a trippy spin was. And then I don't know who it was. Someone invented the trippy spin. And people went like, what the hell is that? What are you doing? You broke my brain. Oh, I see. That's a thing you can do. And now just people are just cracking trippy spins out of nowhere. And that's how like it should be. We raise the ceiling and we sort of raise the floor too. So. Thank you for 10 euros from Michael Bauer. Hi, Joshua. My flight controller beeps weird when I plug in the battery. I sent the details to FPV Know-It-All. Probably my email, I'm guessing. Is this Michael Bauer? Michael Bauer. Here we go. I recently crashed my drone. My flight controller got bricked. I replaced it with a new one. So we got a brand new flight controller. The flight controller made unusual noises. Let me hear the noises. Ooh. That's not good. So the way I read that is that it's beeping. Now that's normal beeps. But then there's something wrong with like your battery voltage or the flight controller where the beeper is not getting the right voltage. I hate to be that guy, but I do want to point out that your soldering has an issue. And like everything doesn't have to be a soldering issue, but like sometimes it is a soldering issue. And so anytime there's a soldering issue, I point it out as a possibility. Your solder joints look really decent. Oh shit. How do I scroll this? There you go. Your solder joints look really decent. You have the right amount of solder. You have nice solder balls. They're solder balls. They're not solder spikes. They are shiny. Your temperature is correct. Your time on the joint is correct. The amount of solder is correct. However, these long wires sticking out here are a problem. So do everything that you're doing, but before you solder the wire, snip it to the same size as the size of the pad. That's the rule. So right here, this wire should be no longer than the size of the pad, and maybe a little bit smaller. And so I don't think that's causing your issue, but like, could you have a little bit of wire sticking out somewhere, touching where it shouldn't touch? Maybe, I don't know. So I just want to call that out for you because you're so close. This one right here, this is a piece of shit. This right here, I can tell. Look, I could see even with this, it's not shiny. It's not a ball. I can see you got a little joint here where you didn't get enough solder in. Redo this one. All the other ones look pretty decent though. Okay. I couldn't. This one's a little squished right here.
Can we see his battery in the video at all?
Let's look. No, we cannot.
All right, I have like a weird prediction. He's not replying in chat, but like, is there any chance there's a smoke stopper on this thing?
Yes, he said he was using yes, he was using a smoke stopper 100%.
Okay, I believe this is because of the smoke stopper.
Like it's killing the voltage or something? Oh my god.
This is what I was talking about, where it's latching. Remember I told you about the latching thing?
Yeah. It's latching. No, I don't remember. Hang on. Tell me about it.
Remember I said basically it will chatter on and off because the 2 amps, it like does this weird thing where it clamps or latches like on and off.
It's like right on the edge of 2 amps?
Yes, it'll jitter on and off, and that, like, I believe can produce what's essentially a low voltage, like looks like low voltage to the...
That's plausible. So, like, clearly you don't have a short. Take the smoke stopper out. See if it goes away. And then also, you got to fix this. This is unacceptable. This is going to be a problem. You have to redo these joints, and you have to shorten up those wires. Your soldering is so close to being good. Like, there's so many things. You're doing like 7 out of 10 things right. Let's make it 10 out of 10. Okay? All right. Yeah, I would say take the smoke stopper out. That's the next thing I would suggest. Is this PDF? Oh, I see. All right.
He is in chat. Okay.
Okay, great. I just want to make sure he got his answer. Okay. My sandals are a wee bit too small. Thank you for $50. I mean, I'm happy with them. Isn't that what matters? Thu Nasty. Dear Lord, tell me how to fly analog on the HD0 goggles V1. I can't find the analog bay add-on anymore. I had this problem in the past. The issue is that over time, the analog bay connector wears out. So what I would have to do is just kind of like wiggle it and press on it, and it would reseat. Frankly, this was one of the big reasons I was excited about the V2 goggles with their internal analog adapter.
I don't think he has it at all. He's trying to buy one.
Oh. Oh. Well, I guess you could get a standalone receiver and go through the AV input?
Yeah, I know somebody in the Discord recently got one, but I'm not sure how. But I know they were complaining to me about a week ago about not being able to find one, and then eventually were able to source something to use. So,
I mean, I would contact HD0 to see if they could I mean, that you should be able to get that. You really need to be able to get that. The thing is, you can 3D print the case, but you can't 3D print the circuit board. So that sucks. Yeah. A year ago, I came to you with an issue. This is from Mark Zidkov. Thank you for 100 Hong Kong dollars. A year ago, I came to you with an issue about a quad ESC, which you helped me fix. Yay! I've sent you some clips if you want to check it out. I just want to say thanks, okay? Well, back to the Gmail. Back to the Gmails. Clip on stream. Try Google Drive. What's the issue? Oh, I see. Hold on. I don't like to play music on stream in case it's copyrighted. Oh, this is just some video of you flying your drone. Okay, that's cool. Oh, it looks smooth. Beautiful. Where is this? Lovely. I love the mountains in the distance. They could be a little closer. I recently had the chance to drive through the Shenandoah Valley. I didn't really know what the Shenandoah Valley was until, we had a day off work, and at breakfast, the waitress said, "Oh, you should go check out the Museum of the Shenandoah Valley." And we were like, "Okay." And I learned all about the Shenandoah Valley, and I love a valley. I love having. There's too much sky. I just feel really exposed. So having a ridge on one side and a ridge on the other and a nice little valley. Big fan, big fan. Yeah, all right. Well, thank you for sharing that. We're not going to watch the whole thing on the stream. Oh, no, that music is definitely copyrighted. Sorry about that, friend. I'm going to mute it. Oh, Where the hell are you? This is a completely different place. This looks like Asia. Go back to the building. No! Where are you going? Go back to the building. I want to see you. I want to see you dive the building. Oh, god dang. This has got a lot of potential. This location's got potential. We're going up to the top of the mountain. Oh, that was the last he ever saw of his quad. There we go. That's what I want. Give me some of that. No, why are you turning away? Go back to the building. Ah, well, maybe someday. He's probably a beginner. Oh, wait, are we going to hit this tree? Yep. Oh, so close. I really thought we were going to hit that tree. That's funny as shit. Oh, my goodness. Thanks for sharing. Skydozer FPV says he said in the video that his flying is limited because of the C rating. Well, if tabless cells are the future, then they can't be limited because of the C rating, right? I don't know. It's just one video, so who knows? I have a tabless pack from Newbie Drone coming. Blunty, hold your nose. So we'll see. We'll see. How are we doing there? Oh, I see that you're queuing some at the top, Blunty. How long have you been doing that? And I've been ignoring it. Did you just start doing that because we're getting to the end?
Like 15 minutes ago, but it's okay.
Oh, okay. Hey, JB, I'm curious of your opinion about how important it is to learn rates tuning, filter tuning, and PID tuning. Does learning how to precisely do those things affect some types of flying more than others? Rates tuning is very important. Your rates highly affect how the quad responds, how it flies, and your capability to control it. Rates are very personal, and they depend very much on the type of flying you're trying to do. So, for example, for cinematic flying, you generally would want much lower rates, which will make the flying smoother and make it hard for you to do jerky movements, which you don't want to do jerky movements when you're doing cinematic flying, right? Jerky movements make the audience sick. So for cinematic flying, you might have rates as low as like 300 degrees per second, hypothetically. You probably don't need to go that low, but you might. For racing, you generally want a little bit higher rates than cinematic, although many racers just fly their same race rates when they do cinematic flying, and it's fine. But for racing, you generally want slightly higher rates because you do need to be able to make sharp turns, but you don't need to do like snap rolls. So typical racing rate is around 500 to 600 degrees per second. And then for freestyle, you want the ability to do whoop, 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 snappy things. And for snappy things, you generally want to be above 900 to 1300 degrees per second as your max rate, although there are outliers. For example, Alex Vanover does freestyle down around 700 degrees per second, although that he may have changed that, but it's what he used to do anyway. And Mr. Steele famously has high rates to do his snappy stuff, or at least he used to back in the day. But rates are highly personal. So it's absolutely worth taking the time to learn how to tune your rates. I have a video about that. Find your perfect rates with science. Wait a minute. Somebody's ganking on my SEO. How I found my perfect rates with science. This dude's ganking my SEO. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. I do think it's entertaining. I love it when I search for a video and somebody's like kind of sort of copied my title. They're like, let's see how he's doing. Grim Ripper. 6.4K views over 2 years. 305K views over 3 years. Okay, well. That's very great. That's actually a lot of views. Wow. This video is paying my whole rent. I recently got a... Let's see if I can find this message. There's a... Maybe he emailed my other email. No. There's a guy who developed an app. Chat, tell me if you know what I'm talking about. He developed an app where you fly in Velocidrone and it measures it tells you how to change your rates to do better for your mind and your physiology. I cannot find it. He must not have emailed me. I swear he emailed me about it. I can't find it. Can anyone tell me? Can anyone tell me? Nils Vo does it on his sim? Is it Nils Vo for real? No. I mean, I didn't get an email from him. And Nils Vo is rocking it. Yeah, this is probably great content. This doesn't look like what I actually was talking about. This is that's it. WT Rate Finder, that's what I'm looking for. I haven't tried this yet. This is going to be the one. Yes, this is the one. So you connect your radio, you fly 6 calibration exercises in Velocidrone, and then it measures 3 proprietary metrics: center precision, max snap velocity, and mid-range distribution, whatever those are. And then it recommends changes to your rates. And basically, based on your sort of mental and physical capabilities, it dials in your rates. That's pretty cool. Let's see if I do WT Rate Finder. Yes. No
Everybody,
music.
my name is Josh, and today I'm going to show you
name.
a tool that I developed, and it's pretty cool. So I've been
Oh god, this video is an hour long. Okay, I will not watch this whole video on stream right now.
Normally see in a Betaflight configurator, left and right. Make sure you keep start. Now a timer is going to go down, and what we're going to do is we're going to hover. We're going to hover right in front of the circle, and we're going to use the purple lines at the bottom to try to stay in the same spot for this 30-second period. If you move significantly, that's totally fine. It's going to help calibrate your center sensitivity, but the idea...
All right, so that's the idea. This is intriguing. I've had the same rates forever. This is very intriguing. I'm glad I have the opportunity to shine a little bit of light on it. Does it only work with Velocidrone? No. It works with... It reads your joystick inputs. It works with any simulator, but the calibration exercises are built as a map in Velocidrone. So you can do these same calibration exercises in another simulator. You just have to kind of find a map that sort of is the similar or the same or some way to do that. But the levels are made in Velocidrone. Intriguing. I would like to know if I can use PEBA instead of TPU for drone parts. I don't know. I've never heard of PEBA. Let's look it up. Usually the answer is no. Usually the answer is TPU is the best. But this says TPU is obsolete. TPU is obsolete. Wow. Well, I gotta click on that video if something's obsolete.
Welcome to another episode.
Stop making music.
We're going to be playing
Okay,
with
that's fine. It's not copyrighted.
I don't know if any of you have heard of PEBA before, but it's the latest filament that Cinematron decided to send out to me. Quite a bit, and it's super strong. I'm going to try and see if I can pull this apart. It's pretty strong. And that's what makes it ideal for materials where you need that spring back, whether that's a basketball or some kind of wheel where you want it to return some of the energy when it impacts something, or if you want to make something.
Crom says he's tested PEBA and he's found it to be a bit less durable than TPU, but it doesn't absorb moisture. So when he wants to print TPU and doesn't have any dry TPU, he uses PEBA.
Something like a stringed instrument. And it launches the thing up into the air. Well, I think with this type of basketball, it deforms elastically and pretty much like you'd expect at normal impact speeds. But once you get above a critical speed, what actually ends up happening is the ball inverts into a stable state where it's like an inverted cup. And then the energy is stored for a millisecond, and then as it's returning back to its normal shape, it goes snap, and it pops down and it hits the ground. So again, I'm going to donate my body to science here. We can feel it. You know, it just kind of harmlessly bounces off of my hand. Even when I throw it a little bit harder, it's pretty harmless. But once I get to that critical snapping speed.
TPU is cheaper, has better abrasion resistance. That doesn't matter for all of our uses, but it matters for some of them. PEBA is more temperature stable, so it retains its flexiness at various temperatures and doesn't soften in the heat. That could matter. PEBA has good energy return. I guess if you're trying to make something bouncy, that matters. We don't really care about that. And is more expensive. Feels like TPU is going to stick around. PEBA tears easier than TPU and is more expensive. It's Blunty says. Soraya Tech says its PBA 95 is highly hygroscopic. Oh, it readily absorbs moisture from the air. Whoops. Sorry, Crom.
Well, Crom is saying it's less hygroscopic than TPU, so I think it's probably relative.
Well, all your filaments should be dry, period. Alrighty. Maybe it just prints great even when it's moist. That's possible. Luck1157 asks, do you know how to get 0 amps when disarmed? My Nosgel Eco DC5 shows 10 amps. So your current sensor may be miscalibrated, although if it's a bind and fly, then it should be calibrated correctly. So I can point you to a tutorial about how to calibrate the current sensor, but I don't think that's right. Go ahead, Blunty.
I was also going to point out, you're not supposed to see 0 amps, right? You're going to see some amps, but not 10.
You would see like, yeah, so like you would see like 1 or 2 amps at disarm. Because your receiver, your VTX are all pulling power. I would expect to see 1 to 2 amps, right? And then when you arm and you're idling, maybe 5 amps, 3 amps. And then when you're flying, obviously that goes up. But if you're seeing 10 amps at idle, I would say that your calibration is off by at least a factor of 5. And at that point, I don't think that's within the normal bounds of calibration error. So like, I think the range of like plausible calibrations for a Betaflight current sensor could be in the range of a max value of 60 to 300-ish amps. Using the calibration value depends on the value of the shunt resistor used in the current sensor. And that value of the shunt resistor determines the maximum amps that you can read, because the maximum output will always be 3.3 volts. And so 3.0 volts equals 0 amps, 3.3 volts equals some maximum value, depending on the value of the shunt resistor. So like the default Betaflight current sense of like, I think it's 400 is the current scale, is like 60 amps or something, which is way too low. So you typically see you see calibration values around 100, which gives you something like 200 amps. I don't remember the exact math. But if my point is that the normal scale of Betaflight current sensors is it's between, say, 60 and 200 or 300 amps. So if you're reading 10 amps at idle, you need to go down. You could theoretically have a wildly wrong calibration value, causing you to read 5 amps 5 times as high. That's plausible. But, like, how did that happen? I don't know. I'm going to show you what you need to do is you need to go to the Power and Battery tab, and you need to look at the value for the amperage meter. This is not connected to a real flight controller, so but the amperage meter will have a scale, a scale value. The scale value should typically be between 1 and 300. 100 and 300. If your scale value is like 10, that's why your current sensor is reading wildly high. Basically, the way you calibrate it is, this is an old video, but it shows the method. Oh my God, look at Bardwell with the V-neck too. The way you calibrate it is you charge a battery to full charge. You fly the battery until you've discharged 500 or 1,000 milliamps, according to your OSD. You go back, you put the battery on the charger. The charger tells you how many milliamps it put back into the battery. That's the correct number. We're going to assume the charger is correct because it probably is close to correct. So if the charger says you put 500 milliamps in and your drone says you pulled 1,000 milliamps out, that means you have a ratio of 2 to 1, and then you adjust the current scale to correct that. This video shows the exact way to do it, including the correct formula, how to do the math, but that's the gist of it. Anyway. All right, we got a super chat here. TX2Stomp, thank you for a $5 super chat. And, oh my God, we have like 25 questions that I didn't get to. I'm so sorry about that. But what are you going to do? Is there any way to fix bent props? Yes, bend them back. Just bend them back until they're all at the same level relative to each other, and then you're good to go. Did AM32 remove support for one-shot and multi-shot? I don't know, but it does sound like the kind of thing they would have done. Use D-shot. Why are you using one-shot and multi-shot anyway? You probably have a good
He's not
reason.
using Betaflight, apparently.
What firmware these days doesn't support one D-shot? It does support one-shot.
He listed all the firmwares I know and said he wasn't using them, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, like what flight control firmware supports one-shot and multi-shot but not D-shot? Stop using that. Okay. The thing is, if it's like a super old flight controller that only supports PWM, I understand that. But there's a relatively narrow window of time where you would have a firmware that did support one-shot and multi-shot, but didn't support D-shot. So it's like where are you in history that you're trying to solve this problem? ESP32 drone. All right, well, time to write D-shot support for ESP32 drone, because that's silly. All right, guys, we are going to wrap up. If you didn't get your question answered, feel free to email me. That's what you can do. Or join my Patreon and go ask in the Discord. But, or not. No, it's up to you. In the meantime, go watch Aaron Ciotti's live stream. Where's Ciotti? Let me find him. Ciotti is streaming now. Go ahead and watch Ciotti stream next if you can't get enough of the streaming. Or, go outside and enjoy the beautiful weather. Bye, everybody.